puntos. Bajo más en tu teléfono. If you're not bilingual in Spanish and English, you can choose the interpretation option at the bottom of your screen by clicking on the globe or choosing the 3 dots under more on your phone. Vamos a probarlo ahora. We're going to test that now. Si has escogido el inglés como tu lenguaje preferido, ahorita deberías de estar escuchando la intérprete diciendo esto en inglés. If you've chosen Spanish as your preferred language, you should be hearing the interpreter say this in Spanish now. Si tienes cualquier problema, manda un mensaje a los panelistas o a Néstor y trataremos de ayudarte. Gracias a Antena Los Ángeles y Alexia, la persona que está interpretando ahora, por su trabajo hoy. Antena Los Ángeles es una colectiva dedicada a promover la justicia del lenguaje, un valor que compartimos aquí en la Alianza para las Artes Tradicionales en California. Este valor incluye el derecho que tienen todas las personas de hablar y escuchar en el idioma en que se sienta, bueno, en nuestros idiomas, perdón. Para más información sobre este trabajo y Antena Los Ángeles, puedes escribirles al correo que vamos a poner en el chat. Y con eso tal vez podemos empezar un poco temprano, Quetzal, o si quieres esperar un minuto más hasta las 12, también está bien. Gracias.
Con mucho gusto, Betty. So I'm speaking English, right? Okay. Okay. Sorry, Alexia. So welcome everybody to our final Rola del Día. We're so excited to be with our guest artist today. Before we get into that, I want to introduce the organization that Betty and I are co-program managers with, and that is the Alliance for California Traditional Arts, also known as ACTA. And ACTA is a really special organization. It's a very unique organization. We are a statewide organization that advocates for traditional artists and their practices to live and thrive from now into generations into the future. And so this is a really, like I said, a unique organization that really prides itself on doing transformative work that roots itself in the practices of the ways in which community interact, ways in which communities build, communicate, and create senses of belonging. And so that's what this project has really been about. And I'm going to pass it over to Betty to describe and explain a little bit about the Sounds of California, Boyle Heights.
Thank you, Quetzal. So yeah, we're excited about this program, and it's part of a much larger project. It's all called Sounds of California, and the project itself is statewide, and it started back in 2015. And the goal of the project has been these themes around exploring music and sound as vital expressions of collective experience. It's been a partnership with the Smithsonian Center for Folklore Radio Bilingüe. And it's also focused particularly on stories of migration and immigration and how those are embedded and archived in music and sound. So Rola del Día is one piece of Sounds of California, Boyle Heights, which is a project that we've been working on here in Boyle Heights for about a year, since the beginning of the year. So it's all been work that, because it started right around when the pandemic started, it's been work that we have had to do online, which has offered different opportunities, but it hasn't limited, the kinds of stories and sounds that we've been able to collect in the community. And so these Rola del Día is 10 commissions, and that we've asked 10 different artists to compose songs about Boyle Heights, their relationship to Boyle Heights. And Quetzal is going to tell us more about our guest today.
So we have this special person with us today, a co-conspirator of mine, a friend, a community elder, someone who has been relentlessly committed to the practice of culture and social movement. I'd like to welcome Nobuko Miyamoto. Welcome, Nobuko.
Thank you very much.
I'm so glad to be in this space with you. I know we share many spaces together, but and I don't get tired of your story, so don't worry about repeating stuff that you think I know. And I know there's a lot of folks out there. I know there's a lot of folks out there that want to understand who you are. If you don't mind, just give us a little bit of information about who is Nobuko Miyamoto.
Well, I'm a third generation Japanese American. I was born in LA, and I was a child of Japanese American relocation. We were taken from our homes. I was a baby, about 2 years old, and along with 120,000 other Japanese Americans and Japanese, we were put in camps. So that was my sort of first experience of memory. And when we began to leave camp, which we had to sort of roam around. We were sort of like refugees in this country. So we went to Montana. My father worked on a work farm there for the government. Then we went to Idaho. Then we went to Utah. And finally, when the war was over, we were able to come back to Los Angeles very carefully. And one of the places that we landed in was Boyle Heights. And Boyle Heights was just a place that felt like we were in a colorful, beautiful, living community. And after we had been sort of, wandering around in the countryside, everything seemed gray to us. Everything seemed lonely and isolated. And when we came to Boyle Heights, we began to feel like, wow, we could live again. We could taste food that we never had before. We could hear music and go out to dinner. I mean, that was something we had never done. So that was my experience. My folks began to enjoy life again. And this is where in Boyle Heights where I started dancing, and it became a passion that I followed and trained as a dancer. And eventually I did have a sort of a career, and that career had limitations as an Asian American. I mean, I just couldn't get the kind of jobs to sustain myself. And so I started looking for why was this happening? And it was in the late 60s. And I connected with the Black movement, and I connected finally with the Asian American movement. And in the Asian American movement, I sort of stumbled into meeting a fellow musician, and we started writing songs together and became like troubadours. So we moved around the country playing music with a guitar and two voices, and telling stories about the movement and what we were trying to do, because we had never really had a song. As Japanese Americans or Asian Americans, we didn't have any kind of musical expression that said who we were. And so for other Asian Americans to hear us, it was a big deal. And so that started me on a journey, and learning what it was to be both a have a craft of writing songs, and also because I was a dancer, I saw that art could do something and communicate in ways that other things couldn't, that a speech could not do, that just organizing could not do. And I started seeing that telling our stories and putting them on a stage or in a theater or on the street, because we performed a lot in places that weren't normal spaces to perform, that people gathered. People were excited, people were turned on, you know, and people were organizing around that. So I started an organization out of a Buddhist temple, actually, in South Central, called the Senjin Buddhist Temple. And the Reverend Mas there, he believed in the arts. And he started taiko drumming, one of the first groups in the United States to start taiko drumming. And he believed in that art was a way to teach about Buddhism. So, and it was a way for me to learn about being Japanese American, and reclaiming my culture, which had been taken away from us. And so anyway, it led me on a long journey, which is, then I bumped into Quetzal towards the end of that, in the last almost 9 years, almost 10 years. And we started working and creating a festival called Fandango and Obon from the Japanese community, and bringing those two traditions together. So we've been doing that for about 8 years now. And then he invited me to write a song about Boyle Heights, which has been really a lot of fun. Okay, that's my whole story.
That was great. That was great. There's so much more. Before we hear your song, which you've already beautifully kind of, shared some of the inspiration and background for, we did want to mention that we originally planned this event with Gabriel Gonzalez, who's another songwriter, musician in the community. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come today, but we are going to share his song a little bit later in the program. So just for you all folks who might be wondering where he is, he couldn't make it, but we're definitely going to share his music, and his ideas will be part of the conversation. So I think with that, Quetzal, if you're ready, we can put on Nobuko's song.
Can you make me co-host, please?
Oh, whoops. Oh, okay. Nestor, can you there you are.
Thank you, Nestor.
Boyle Heights is a place of bridges, stories crossing, stories never end. From a broken past into the future, Boyle Heights, a place we're free again, free again, free again. In 1942 they swept us, took us to a desert ghetto. 4 years they kept us, and now we're back to start from zero. Mom is happy, sewing curtains, stitching up a home. Daddy trucks across the bridge, planting flowers, cutting lawns. Boyle Heights is a place of colors. Boyle Heights, where strangers become friends. From other worlds we meet across our fences. Boyle Heights, a place to dream again, dream again. Pachucos, shiny blue Chevys passing by, Garcias and Miyamotos in evergreen side by side, brown and yellow girls, bocha and sunset ballet shoes and pink tights, dreaming ballerinas, dancing swans and butterflies. A taste of life, the bitter and the sweet. Trading recipes across our fences. Boyle Heights, a place to live again. Live again. Live again. Out to dinner and adventure. Enchiladas and candlelight. Who can eat the hottest chilies? Mom and Dad, give it a try. Serenading mariachi sends us out into the night. Walking home, we hear Mr. Abe's shakuhachi lullaby. A place of memories, a melody that lingers in your brain. You can leave it, but it won't leave you. Something in you remains, in you remains. Sakura, Sakura.
Wow. That was beautiful.
That was fun to do. It was really fun to do.
I mean, there's so many things to talk about. Those pictures really, they evoke so many emotions and thoughts. In particular, I mean, you talked about landing in Boyle Heights, you know, after a series of moves to try and land on your feet again as a family, as a community, as a culture. And thinking about like the connection between the current state of the reemergence, or rather the rearing of the head of white supremacy and capitalist patriarchy, and also the connection between the moment where Japanese people were incarcerated and the legacy of this country of stolen land and stolen lives. And I know you have an album coming out soon in the spring on Folkways, Smithsonian Folkways, and you have a song about this there, and you talk about those connections. But I'm just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about your feelings about, the connection between all these things and how it comes to this moment.
Well, I think having that experience of forced relocation or forced removal was just a taste of what many people of color have had in this country from its very founding. And in that way, it makes us feel, or at least it makes me feel bounded to others who've experienced that. And it's just amazing how resilient we are, all of us, after having traumatic experiences like this. It's just amazing how much we rely really on our culture to pull us through this and sustain us, even with these traumas. And we can return and we can rebuild and we have roots that go deeper than just on the surface of this land. I think that's what's helped us to survive and to continue to grow and maintain. But it's also the thing that for my life, makes me want to connect with others who've experienced that, because it's continued on from the beginning of this country to the present. And we have to show how that connection works and to make the system, keep the system in the hands of the few, and how it's kept us locked out and called minorities when we truly weren't minorities, and when this country looked a lot different, and would look very different if certain laws weren't in place to keep us from being minorities and keep the people of the original people of this land who have been totally stolen from.
Thank you, Nobuko. I wonder if this is a good moment to play Gabriel's song, and then we can talk a little bit more after hearing both songs. I think Gonzalez is prepping the song.
Yeah, sorry, just getting it ready.
"1930. Take a look around and tell me what you see. Taco stands in Yiddish shops, running up and down the street. A booming social clubs, fat houses, shops side by side. A thriving immigrant sanctuary, till the feds took my Japanese family. Mariachi and klezmer tunes drifted from apartment windows. Socialists and anarchists rapping, baking over their agendas. Now all that's left is David Starr, a shoe by 1960, and an exodus. The West Side, Fairfax. Life goes on. Russian, Jewish, Japanese, for starters. Life goes on. It moved on. 1960s. Take a look around and tell me what you see. I see Brooklyn Avenue, a bridge conjuntos up and down the street, shops selling mops and halter tops. The 5 puntos meet and ceremonies. When the rain comes, no sweat, pick up an umbrella, a bag of salty nuts, a pop, pancakes with Nutella, as the whole thing plays out day to day at the same place. Not outgone even to this day. Chavez Ravine. Life goes on. First it's Brooklyn, then it's Cesar Chavez. Life goes on. They march on. 2020. Today I take a look around and I'll tell you what I see. On the track I see Amigo in the Benz, parking next to me. But oh, these times I'll put on some, but not everyone. On Chavez and Evergreen, the Buddhist temple's still here first. Song. First it's Brooklyn, now it's Cesar Chavez. Life goes on, life goes on. No kids playing in the street, no Nihongo on the beat. Lot of changes blow my mind, lot of me I leave behind. Mom and Pop still have no say, slowly fading day to day. Stores are closing once again, slowly but surely change. The vendors on the corner are starting to disappear, getting rid of little markets, boutiques starting to appear, and no more socks, no mops, no halter tops. Slowly things looking a little foreign here.
Wow. So yeah, Gabriel Gonzalez sends his love of Boyle Heights and apologizes that he couldn't make it today. His song, leaves us on a painful moment, I think, a painful moment around what's lost with gentrification and changes in Boyle Heights. But also there's a healing, I feel like there's a real healing kind of sense to his song. It feels healing, the refrain around life goes on. And Nobuko, you were talking a lot about healing and, how Boyle Heights was really a place of healing for you and your family when you returned. But I'm wondering, what is your relationship to Boyle Heights today? And do you still see elements of the Boyle Heights you grew up with? What does it mean to you today?
There's something about Boyle Heights that clings to its culture. I mean, it doesn't want to let go of it. The people are serious and they don't want, there's a sense of home, there's a sense of belonging that is not going to disappear, I don't believe, easily. They can change a few stores, they can change the names of streets or whatever, and build freeways around it, which they've done. But still there's something of it that they can't destroy about it. And that we continue to go back there to try to build and hold on and to tell the stories, because that's what keeps it alive, is the continual creation of culture and story. I mean, we're trying to do that with Little Tokyo. It's much more difficult because it's been really overcome, but we still cling to it. But I think Boyle Heights has a much bigger chance, and it feels like there's more consciousness and just more population that lives there, which we don't have in Little Tokyo. We don't have a big population of Japanese who actually live in Little Tokyo, where it is in Boyle Heights. We do have a Latino community that is fixed there, and they have roots there, and gardens and stores and marquetas, and So I enjoy going back there. We do our project of Fandango Boom. We do workshops at Roosevelt High, East Side Cafe, and eating food in the restaurants there. So I feel it's a place I can go. It does still have memory, deep memory for me.
There is a question from the audience here, which might be our last one since we're pretty much getting to the end here. It says, thank you for sharing your beautiful song, Nobuko. I'm curious to know, your song refers to Boyle Heights as a place of bridges. Was this how you've always described Boyle Heights? How did these sentiments evolve throughout the decades, especially during crucial times of building community with other BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color communities?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's a physical thing of bridges, the First Street Bridge, the 4th Street Bridge, et cetera. There's a lot of bridges that lead into, but it's also was for us as a family, it was a bridge into returning to life. And then it was a bridge of crossing cultures because we lived among other people of color and we learned how to, enjoy each other and play together and make music together. So the comfort of being Japanese American and being able to dance with Latina sisters who are, I grew up with, and they're just a comfort. And the same thing when I lived in the Black community in West Adams and Jefferson area. I mean, we grew up among Black people. So that's where we felt comfortable. That's where we felt a sense of belonging and that we had a common experience. And I feel very lucky that I grew up in neighborhoods like that, that really formed me. And it formed my, the way I look at the world and the way I look at myself.
Amazing. So we're out of time. I told you it was gonna go quick, and I could sit here and ask you questions for days, probably. But I did want to mention, and Deborah Wong posted that there's going to be a memoir, your memoir, coming out soon on UC Press. And I want to congratulate you and just tell you how valued and loved and appreciated you are in multiple communities. And just lastly, I just need to tell you that I have plans for you.
You always do. I have to be afraid. What does he have next for me? But actually, I mean, yes, I really appreciate being part of this project. It just really made me feel, again, like I belong somewhere. And I write a lot about in the book about Boyle Heights and my parents' experience, my mother's experience of being here, sewing with the ladies and feeling like the first time that we belong somewhere. So I thank Boyle Heights for that experience. I thank you, Gonzalez and Betty, for inviting me into your project. And I want to meet all the other musicians, and I've heard some of the songs and they're really exciting. The whole idea is wonderful. And I hope that we have the help to, and Gabriel did that. I mean, he did a big timeline of Boyle Heights, which was wonderful. So these stories are not going to disappear. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Nobuko. I think that's a beautiful note to close on. Thank you everyone for coming today. This is our last program for now for Rola del Dia, but do stay in touch with us. I do want to thank our funders, the California Arts Council and California Humanities, for supporting this project. And one thing that helps us out with our funders is if you all tell us what you thought of the program so that they can have a better sense of that. So I'm gonna post a couple links in a second because that link didn't work. And if you could click on the link and respond either in English or Spanish, tell us what you thought. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you again, and we will see you soon, hopefully. Do you want to put a song on, Quetzal, to say goodbye?